Hello, and welcome to our presentation on 5G and practical use cases. One thing we knew before studying 5G technology was that it would have a higher density of hardware than 4G networks. Our project dives into how this greater density will allow for greater awareness into the specific location of endpoint devices and what use cases would arise from this increased visibility. Throughout this presentation, we will transition from very high-level concepts and then dive into the specifics of how those concepts are possible. Once the foundational knowledge has been set, we'll work into unique use cases that weren't possible without the advancements that come with 5G. Looking at the next slide, we are moving into the 5th generation of mobile technology. It is designed for everyone and everything to be interconnected as well as synchronized. The amount of data points is expected to grow considerably with the increase of Internet of Things devices. As you can see through the history of mobile technology, 5G will change how consumers, governments, and businesses are ran. It will surely kick the smart city infrastructure into gear. On to the next slide, you might ask, why do we need 5G? Well, 5G technology is a natural evolution in mobile technology and growing data trends. The graph on the left shows mobile traffic usage from 2011 through 2016. You'll notice that the gold bars representing voice traffic has remained consistent from year to year. The red bars represent data traffic and the increasing data usage every quarter. This trend is only expected to continue. The graph on the right shows mobile data traffic from 2016. Mobile data traffic patterns are primarily driven from video consumption and is expected to continue to grow in the years to come. Next, when comparing 4G to 5G, the improvements are incredible. 5G improves upon 4G capabilities in many important categories such as lower latency, higher data rates, and higher connection density. It is designed for increased data consumption by more devices than ever before. The next generation of mobile internet is commonly being called the Internet of Everything. This is defined by Cisco as the intelligent connection of people, process, data, and things. In our next slide, we will look into 5G's 8 key performance indicators. The image on the left is a comparison of IMT Advanced versus IMT 2020 capabilities, or more recognized as 4G and 5G capabilities. The industry has agreed to these minimum standards, which will ensure that users experience the same quality on all 5G networks. On the right, you'll notice that in 4G locations, the BS location is where the frequency originates, and as the user moves further away from that point, their service begins to degrade. Near the edge of the cell, quality of experience is very low. The standard for 5G networks guarantees the user to experience a minimum of 100 megabytes per second, regardless of their proximity to the base station. These standards are possible due to the higher frequencies used in 5G networks.
This slide has a lot of information on it, but what you need to know first is that 4G and 5G will use different frequencies. These frequencies are electromagnetic waves or waves of energy that are transmitted through the air. All frequencies are created using energy, but some require more energy than others. The graph on the top right is a small portion of the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. If you notice where it shows the 5G frequency range, which is classified as frequencies below 6 GHz, that is a very small portion of the spectrum. With an increase in Internet of Things devices, this portion was becoming inadequate. You'll notice that the 5G portion covers a far greater range of frequencies. There is some overlap in the sub-6 GHz range, but the majority of the improvements come from frequencies above the 6 GHz range. To the left, you'll notice low and high frequency graphs. The 4G networks utilize low frequency signals, which have long wavelengths. These frequencies require much less energy and therefore are able to travel a great distance, as well as having the ability to penetrate surfaces like those used in the construction of this building. The 5G networks primarily will take advantage of the higher frequency signals which have a short wavelength. These frequencies require more energy and do not penetrate through dense materials that make up the walls in this building. That energy has particles known as photons, and when you use more energy, these photons are vibrating at higher speeds. As that signal travels away from the power source, that signal starts to slow down. This action of slowing down or losing signal strength is called attenuation. 5G signals suffer from attenuation much more quickly than 4G signals because of how much more energy they need to maintain signal integrity. On the bottom right, you'll see 4 different wavelengths for 4 different frequencies. The 2.4 gigahertz frequency is part of the 4G frequency range. Each wave carries a certain amount of data, and you can see for this time period, there are 3 intervals. As you move to the 5 gigahertz, you'll see that there are 6 intervals, which means you can send twice as much data. As you move down to the new 5G frequencies, such as the 28 gigahertz and 39 gigahertz, you'll notice that the signal is able to repeat much quicker, which means that you can send much more data over the same period of time.
Now that we've discussed how 4G and 5G networks function and the benefits of each, let us begin to look at a solution which will encompass both technologies. This graphic is an overly simplified view of how a 5G community would be designed to work within a 4G network. In this graphic, sub-6 GHz and gigabyte LTE reference primarily 4G networks with 5G found in densely populated areas, such as Indianapolis, Los Angeles, Denver, and many more. Notice how the 5G network in the center has many base stations to cover a smaller area, where the sub-6 GHz zone covers a much larger geographic region using far less base stations.
Considering the slide before, let's take a deeper look at the coverage that the base station or antennas will cover. 4G macro cells cover a large geographic region because they utilize low frequency, low energy signals which travel far distances before suffering from attenuation issues. 5G technology relies upon the high frequency, high energy signals that cannot travel as far or penetrate through dense materials. The lack of distance is why 5G will utilize many small cells to cover a small geographic region. This graphic shows both 4G and 5G antennas. Since 4G has a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum consisting of large wavelengths, it will not require as many elements for its traffic. The 5G antennas use a much larger portion of the electromagnetic spectrum consisting of smaller wavelengths. These smaller wavelengths can be received using much smaller receptors or, generally speaking, elements. This allows for 5G's massive MIMO capabilities. MIMO means multiple in, multiple out, which allows for many more devices to connect at one time. We wanted to show this slide again now that we've talked about the antennas so you can start to grasp these concepts in greater detail. The 5G zone in the middle will utilize this massive increase in MIMO receptors and help prevent and reduce congestion in highly populated areas where this technology is deployed. This figure shows multiple carriers providing coverage to a single site. Traditionally, these signals are deployed covering the same area, causing poor coverage and low quality in certain regions. This is a proposed solution for 5G technologies to help prevent poor coverage and low quality areas with competing signals. This is substantially important as the 5G will have much more frequencies with higher energy outputs in the same area. Notice how this pattern has allowed for some areas with low or no coverage to gain coverage while reducing signal overlap in other areas, increasing the quality of signal in those regions. When the new coverage scheme is applied to much larger regions, you can start to see that the signals are being utilized in a much more efficient layout. On the left, you'll see the old scheme compared against the new scheme. Notice how the white spaces, which represent non-coverage areas, are greatly reduced. Also notice that these signals have less overlap, causing greater performance and less interference with one another. On the right is an advancement on this idea which utilizes HPBW, which means half power beam width. Notice how there is an even greater reduction in the signal overlap, which attributes to signal interference.
The placement of 5G towers is vital since the waves are high frequency. These waves have a harder time traveling over distances and through objects. The antennas or towers for 5G are based on small site tech that can only cover a small area. This means the towers need to be placed closer together than 4G towers. This allows you to locate endpoints more quickly and with greater precision than 4G.
The improvements in 5G will allow for more devices to be connected to the grid than ever before. The slide shows how 5G technologies will find their place in everyday activities such as watching television or meeting with your doctor from the comfort of your couch.
On our next slide, the business case uses for 5G are pretty much endless. Many companies will be using location tracking to enhance how goods and people travel. Businesses that rely on transportation will use fleet management. This improves companies' efficiency, productivity, and overall cost. It will allow companies to see GPS tracking, fuel consumption, accidents and infringements, and reports in real time, saving them valuable time in the end. Having the capabilities of 5G networks for location tracking will greatly benefit business cases and take fleet management to a higher level. 5G networks also play a vital role within warehouse efficiency and supply chains. 5G will improve tracking and tracing, product monitoring, and real-time data. Live tracking will allow you to see what items arrive in real time versus scheduled. This allows companies to better foresee when products will get there, improving efficiency. Looking into product monitoring with 5G sensors, you will be able to see the condition of the product at the stock keeping unit level. Real-time data will make it easier for warehouse robots and truckers to communicate. Timing is crucial within a 5G network for autonomous vehicles. With the high rate of growth in self-driving cars, 5G will surely influence development greatly. Companies such as Google Cars, Tesla, and Toyota are all working to develop these cars. These companies are trying to make these cars as safe and as smart as possible. These cars have hundreds of sensors that rely on data processing capabilities that need to imitate human reflexes. The three main sensors that autonomous vehicles rely on are camera, radar, and LiDAR. These devices use a large amount of data. This technology needs an ultra-fast, reliable, and responsive network such as 5G.
There are many great examples where 5G advancements will improve everyday activities, but also poses increased privacy concern. This graphic shows only a few generic areas that raise concern. Hackers will be able to attack all of these new devices and sensors. This is a graphic of the current model that law enforcement agencies use when tracking a criminal in real time. This method is called triangulation because it measures the time that a signal takes to reach a tower. Not just one tower, but at least 3 towers. The more towers, the better. It allows for better precision, and having towers that are closer to one another also allows for greater precision. This graphic shows the triangulation method using 4G towers, which are spread out far away from one another. However, in a city with 5G antennas and sensors all over, the geographic precision of the criminal's location will be so specific that you might be able to tell exactly which building, floor, and room that the criminal is hiding in real time. Please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.